Hello and welcome to Running Down Corridors. I'm Martin, and joining me this week, as always, I have Chris.
Hello.
And we're once again joined by our good friend, Abi. How are you doing, guys?
Hi. All right.
Yeah, not bad.
And this is where we pretend like we're not recording two back to back.
Of course. Of course.
So when the Disney Plus deal was announced recently, there was a lot of speculation about spin-offs. So I thought maybe we could just have a short discussion about spin-offs that have come before and maybe stuff we would like to see. So I think we'll stick to official ones. I think it's easier and we're most likely to have all seen them. So I guess the first ever attempted Doctor Who spin-off was K9 and Company. So have you both seen it, and what did you make of it?
I've never seen it.
You've not seen it?
No, I've never seen the interest of it. To be honest, I'm going to have to shred my membership card of being a Doctor Who fan, but I've always thought K9 was shit.
I'm not a K9 fan at all.
Yeah,
I think it's such a stupid idea that they ever put him in it, and I couldn't care less. The only episode that I found it a bit emotional was when he got blown up in the school reunion episode. But
yeah, it's well used there.
Yeah, but that was because it felt like a nice little homage to the past, and then he sacrifices himself. Then they bring him back anyway, and now he's Australia's problem.
Good day, mates.
I tried watching that series today. I made it 9 minutes in. And then I turned it off.
That's a great start, isn't it? I just never understood the logic of Sarah having K9. Ever.
No, and I didn't really understand it in the Five Doctors either. But then that's because it came afterwards, I think, wasn't it?
K9 and Company, and then the Five Doctors. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's Nina's dog. So.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
It's Mark 3.
Just hands him out like candy.
All right, so let's move on to the one that I know we all would have seen. The next one that was actually successful was Torchwood.
Torchwood. Outside the government, beyond the police. Tracking down alien life on Earth and arming the human race against the future. The 21st century is when everything changes. And you've got to be ready.
So what are your memories of Torchwood?
I've only seen the first season of that.
Oh, okay.
Military. I like the adult aspects.
Yeah.
Not in a weird way. That came across really weird.
To me, it kind of felt like they were trying hard to make it adult, and it didn't. It was like as if teenagers were. A student film was trying to be adult. You know, that sort of feeling I had. But
well, yeah. Look at the sex gas.
Oh Christ, yeah.
That's my ex's favourite episode.
I have reasons for liking that episode, which I cannot disclose.
Oh, okay. Maybe tell us off there.
Well, that leaves that open to interpretation.
Hello, listeners.
You're into the late hour of the. I thought the first episode was all right. As it got on, it was okay. I didn't quite take to some of the characters straight away, but actually by the end, I think series 2 was better.
Series 2 is my favourite of Torchwood.
Series 2 is far better. The characters softened a bit. Like I could not stand Owen. Bern Gorman's character until the second season.
Claire.
And it just went from there. It really found its feet in the second series. And then, of course, it had the Children of Earth story, which I think was one of the most compelling weeks of TV viewing.
Yeah, outstanding.
To think that came from Doctor Who as well.
So I've been reading a book about the making of Series 1.
All right.
And the production of this thing was an utter shit show. So Chris Chibnall was originally brought on to be a writer. Then they approached him and they were like, oh, how about being a co-producer? And then retroactively, about 3 months into filming, it was like, actually, Chris, Russell can't handle Doctor Who, this, and the upcoming Sarah Jane Adventures. So do you want to be showrunner? And Chris Chibnall was kind of grandfathered in. So Series 1 of Torchwood was announced in October 2005. It started filming in May 2006 and it broadcast in October 2006. So they had half the time and half the budget of Doctor Who and had to make the same amount of episodes. So, a lot of times they were going off first drafts and the episodes got swapped around and stuff. Cyberwoman is like polarized amongst all those episodes.
Well,
but
it looks like a fan's wanked hard.
It is. And basically that was meant to be episode 10 and Yanto was going to be the villain of the series. And throughout the series, we were going to see him pocketing bits of tech, etc., and be like, oh, what's this guy up to? And then it was going to play out that he had betrayed them all. But just because of just the sheer volume of work they had to do in 5 months, all of that got cut. So that's why a lot of Series 1 Yanto is just kind of there.
That makes sense.
Yeah. And there's some really good standout episodes. Ghost Machine is outstanding. That is just awesome. And what's the name of it? The one where the people from the past come back? They come in on the plane. I can't remember the title of the episode.
Out of Time.
Out of Time. Oh, that's a beautiful episode.
She's got the list up.
That's up there with my favourite, Torchwood.
Just doesn't Owen fall for one of the...
He does,
that has to go back.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The one that stuck with me for that first series was Countryside.
Oh, that's brilliant.
That was terrifying.
Yeah.
Just truly frightening. And the fact that it ends with just that there is no alien and it's just like there's no creature or anything like that. It's just chilling to the bone. Really, really terrifying stuff.
Have you guys heard any of the Big Finish Torchwood?
I've got ACD.
No,
I didn't quite rate it. I think because it just felt like it was a part of a bigger story and I only had one part of it.
Oh, but yeah, that would make sense.
But I don't know if it was. I felt like it just sort of ended as if it was open to other, like it was all connected.
I think with Big Finish, you go either one of two ways. You either listen to Torchwood or Unit, and I listen to Unit.
Okay. No, I just bring it up. I just bring it up because Joe Lidster, I'm proud to say, is a friend of mine now through many years of following each other on Twitter.
I love Joe.
Yeah, he wrote a Big Finish audio called Broken, and it's set just after Countryside, and it deals with like the aftermath of that and what Yanto's going through. And it's beautiful, and it explains like him falling in love with Jack, and you kind of see that. Well, you hear their love for each other progress over the course of this audio, and it's got Gwen from Gavin and Stacey in it. That's my recommendation to any listeners, is to check out Broken.
I should add it to my long list.
Yeah, and I guess probably the fan favourite spin-off is the Sarah Jane Adventures.
13 Bannerman Road is where Sarah Jane Smith lives, and it's home to things way beyond your imagination. There's an extraterrestrial supercomputer in the wall, a genetically engineered boy genius in the attic, a schoolgirl investigator across the road, and a whole universe of adventure right here on the doorstep. Ready? Always.
I think because that has a bigger age range, really. If you think about it, it is aimed for younger kids, but it has that sort of feel of Doctor Who still.
It still has some really thingy issues in it, though. I know it's like aimed at younger kids, but some of the stuff is really like,
yeah.
Oh, it dealt with racism before the modern era did of Doctor Who. Yeah,
I thought it was very good. That actually, I quite like the format that it was a 2-parter each one. Whereas Doctor Who, would just do wrap it up in a single 45 minutes.
Yeah.
They would do like 2.5 hours, and you'd always have that cliffhanger. I just love that feeling.
Old school format.
Yeah, there are some many good ones. I mean, the Trickster in that, it's just incredible.
Nightmare Man.
Oh, Nightmare Man was brilliant.
I had to re-watch that episode because of a series that I'm writing a couple of days ago, and it's just about us like, yes, this is good. This is a good episode.
That one was written by Joe Lidster, actually, coincidentally. I love the Sarah Jane Adventures. I like that format, and I think that's why a lot of old school fans kind of gravitated towards it.
Yeah.
But originally, when she was approached about doing the spin-off, all her agent had told her, Liz Sladen, was, Russell T Davies wants to talk to you about this Doctor Who spin-off. and Torchwood was currently filming. So Elizabeth Sladen put 2 and 2 together, got 5, and got really excited that she was going to be playing a more adult version of Sarah Jane, and wondering how that's going to go. And when when she got to the meeting, Russell's like, "No, we're giving you your own show, and it's going to be on CBBC." But she's equally delighted to be getting her own show. But yeah, I just imagine those ideas she was having on the train journey to go and meet Russell in Cardiff, and thinking about how Sarah would fit into this more adult environment.
Well, funny you say that, actually. I interviewed Sadie Miller, her daughter.
You did, yeah.
For my podcast, More Than Just an Impression. I asked her if there's any character that because I think she plays her mother's role very, very well.
Yes.
And I said, but now you've got, there are possibilities, of course, that you could take Sarah Jane where you feel appropriate. Is there any companion or anyone else you'd like her to partner with? And she said Gwen from Torchwood.
Oh, wow.
So I think, yeah.
I'd like to see that chemistry.
That's no idea if that will come to be, but yeah, I think she would love to see the Torchwood angle from that. I'd be intrigued to see what her ideas were for a more adult Sarah Jane.
Yeah, it's a shame that series got cut short, sadly, because of her illness.
Yeah,
and her passing. What spin-offs would you most like to see?
You're just not going to talk about Class, are you?
I forgot about Class, to be honest.
I'll say this. I sat down and watched Class a couple of months ago because I didn't even give it a chance because of what everybody else had been saying. It's all right. I don't think it worked because you don't have that person to connect to, because obviously it's all like original characters. If they'd I don't know, slipped Clara in or Danny Pink, as much as I'm not a massive fan of those two characters, I think if they'd had that shoehorn character there, it would have worked better.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
My fiance's stepbrother is a massive fan of Doctor Who. He has been since the Troughton era, and he'd never heard of Class. He was like, "Oh, it's a shame there's not been a spin-off for a while." And I was like, "Well, Class." He had no idea. Just no idea. And I guess if you're looking for that on iPlayer,
there's a shit name. It's a really shit name.
It's a shit name, and like Abby said, there's no recognizable character. So they didn't want to put the Doctor in Torchwood because they felt that kids would want to watch it. But then they had to have the Doctor in Class because you have to establish that this is the same universe. And yeah, I wasn't a fan of Clara and Danny, but if they had left to lead Class, I think Class would have got a second series.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So guys, what spin-offs would you like to see? I know, Chris, you've long pitched the Peladon series.
Yeah, I want a Peladon series. It's like Game of Thrones meets House of Cards and Brian Hales. I think it'd be fantastic. And why no one's done it is beyond me. Before anyone says, yes, I know Big Finish did do a Peladon range and they got David Troughton back to be King Peladon, whatever. But that's not what I'm talking about, people. That's not what I'm talking about. And I'm sounding like a right-wing commentator. I'll shut up now.
The difficulty with this is that spin-off shows only ever get half the budget of the parent show. So like when Angel launched as a spin-off to Buffy, that had half the budget of an episode of Buffy. All the Doctor Who spin-offs we've had have been modern day Earth set, and that's just budgetary. But now maybe there's some Disney Plus money coming in. Maybe you can start looking further afield and we can have something set in space. Abby, you're our guest. Is there any spin-off cooking around in your mind that you would like?
Yes.
Just make one of them.
Yeah, I think we know the answer.
On TT Productions 23.
That's my Charlotte Fuller voice right there. I quite like the Paternoster Gang, and I feel like they deserved a little bit more love and development. I have took it upon myself to do that, but if they had the ability to do it on screen, it would be brilliant. I feel sorry for Neve McIntosh having to put that makeup on all the time. However, I don't know, I just feel like there's stories to be told.
Animated would work well, actually.
Animated, yeah. Stories to be told, because they were literally picked up and dropped in. We didn't see any of them as characters. They were very much kind of side pieces. I'm not bringing up TT again, but even just the Jenny stuff, you you research her character, and when you look into backstories on like Wikipedia and stuff, it says Jenny was a match girl, and that is her backstory. That is it. But we never saw that on telly. You know, it was never mentioned. It was never brought up. And I feel like they could do a lot with them, either like pre-Good Man Goes to War, or like, obviously I know like the Big Finish have been doing stuff with them as well. But like, I feel like they have more potential than they've been given. You know?
Oh, yeah, there's definitely potential there. I guess it's budgetary, the reason it was never done live action, because it's something fans have wanted. But I guess when two of your leads spend 5 hours in makeup before they can film anything, and it's Victorian London, you've got all the costume and location. Yeah.
Because the other thing I'd love to see is more of the Victorian Torchwood.
Oh, same.
I'm a sucker for anything set in the Victorian Edwardian era. Like, yeah, that scene with the two girls and Jack, I want more of that, please.
That is my favourite episode of Torchwood, actually.
There.
Fragments. I brought that the second it aired, because you used to be able to buy episodes on your iPod back in the day.
Oh, yeah.
And the second it aired, I brought that episode on iTunes so I could watch it again. Because I don't think iPlayer was a thing back then, so I couldn't just rewatch it. But yeah, I've always been fascinated by Victorian Torchwood. And there's some great crossovers to be had from the Pat and Oscar gang. I've always thought a 70s or 80s set unit series, kind of like the X-Files.
Oh my God, yes.
Would be brilliant. And you could get like John Coleshaw voicing the Brigadier on like a phone call or something with the main cast. I just think there's so much scope in the universe of Doctor Who. The universe is almost too big for one show.
Yeah.
You need some spin-offs. And there were times, that I wasn't enjoying Doctor Who, but I really liked Torchwood. Or I wasn't enjoying Torchwood, but I had the Sarah Jane Adventures, and that was good. It's been missing for about a decade now. If you didn't like it under the Capaldi era, there was no other outlet apart from Big Finish.
Thank God for Big Finish, yeah.
Yeah. And same with the Whittaker era, like all those fans that were against the female Doctor, or they just didn't like the writing, or for whatever reason they didn't watch.
Yeah, they had nowhere else to go.
Yeah, and I just think it's a shame there is no spin-off to kind of share the load. I think we are going to see some spin-offs, but if Disney are funding it, they're not going to fund a character that the viewers have to go to a competitor to learn about. If you see what I mean. So they're not going to pick Martha and be like, oh, we're giving what Martha got up to in that year around, or what Martha's up to now. Yeah. Because then internationally, in America, they'd be sending their viewers to HBO Max.
That's true.
So I think any spin-offs we get, they're either going to be legacy characters like Ace, or they're going to be a character that we're going to meet in Series 14.
True.
When Class was announced, I tried to think of silly spin-offs. They were pretty much, I suppose, somewhere along the line, like you could argue Big Finish have done a few there. Scraping at the barrel sort of spin-offs.
Tales from New Earth.
Yeah. So I ended up coming up with a few just to put on Twitter to be hopefully comical. One was the Peladon story one, because that's not comical. That was a serious suggestion, but I wanted to try and get it out there again. The other one was like Wilson.
Oh, the janitor.
The janitor from Rose, yeah. It was essentially, I took a photo of, I can't find the artwork anywhere, but I mocked up little posters. And I basically had one of the warning electric signs in the background, and I'd like Robson Green in high vis. And it said Wilson, and the sign that says do not go in, or the fire safety things. And my pitch for it was Wilson, the tale of the lonely janitor who enjoys the lottery.
Russell T. Davies expanded on that character in the novelization of Rose.
No.
Yeah. Basically, he was embezzling the lottery money.
Oh, for God's sake.
And just hoping that the numbers never came up.
Oh, my God. does make sense. But that adds to the story of Wilson. That's the plot we need. And some are even older, classic Who ones. One of them is from Tomb of the Cybermen, Captain Hopper and his flying machine. I wanted that guy to come back and have his own show.
Yes, sir. Tales from Terminus.
Yeah. Alpha Centauri, live and unleashed.
Once she ever put her clothes back on.
Stand-up routines from Alpha Centauri, that'd be fun. Yeah.
It was weird. Sorry.
No, that's fine. I was just rambling, but I just think there's a lot of good potential out there for... I'm kind of actually, now that you've said that, I'm now intrigued by the Wilson story.
I think there's something there.
About a book now.
I've got the audiobook I can send your way, Chris.
Well, there's only going to be about 30 seconds regarding it, I imagine. No.
What's the whole spin?
What I plan is a full 10-part serial.
Okay.
Do Wilson justice. He didn't just die down there, killed by mannequins.
It was weird the way they announced class, because I remember that day on Twitter, all day they were posting pictures from like the Robert Holmes days and the Hinchcliffe days. And people were like, oh, Hinchcliffe's coming back to write an episode.
Oh, yeah.
And then it was just like, oh, we're doing a spin-off that's got no characters that you know.
Or connection to the other names.
Yeah.
I'd applaud the marketing for that, because that is an ultimate wanker move.
You could have had this, however.
Yeah, he goes, what connects the return of Philip Hinchcliffe? And all these different things. Tom Baker or something. You go, oh my God, what are they doing? And it turns out it's
nothing involved.
Nothing to do with it at all. We just wanted to post up little bits to really make you think. Oh.
And that was back in the day where the social media account wasn't, or what they call it, commercial. Wasn't a commercial account. So they had very little content to post on Twitter. I remember one time they posted this thing. There was like some slice of ham on Yaz. And like,
what?
Yeah, just if you look back before, because they couldn't tweet about Big Finish or anything like that when they were non-commercial. So like they really struggled to get content. So they would make stuff up, and I can't even remember it all, but I remember once they tweeted about Jodie Whittaker's birthday, and it was the wrong day. And it was little stuff like that. And I will say now the BBC Twitter account can tweet stuff about Big Finishes, etc. It is a lot more interesting to read. But yeah, spin-offs, I think, we definitely need a spin-off. I know Class had its fans, but I wasn't one of them. And I think the BBC lost faith in Class midway through production because
100%.
They sent Doctor Who magazine no promotional material for that show. So on the day Class launched, the corresponding magazine was a celebration of 10th anniversary of Torchwood.
Oh.
And I remember someone tweeting them and being like, why didn't you give Class any promotion? They're like, look, we're not a charity. If they don't send us anything, what are we meant to report on? So, yeah, the whole promotion of Class and stuff was weird. Yeah.
Kind of like the secrecy they had with Series 11, isn't it? They sort of held too much their cards close to their chest and they didn't really promote it.
Well, Doctor Who magazine has started to sell out again. And it's because Russell T Davies is actually giving them content.
You can't excite people by just going, it's coming, just wait.
Yeah.
It doesn't build any hype. Russell
We're going to get so many teasers.
And he managed to build hype with 4 emojis. That's incredible, you know?
Should we talk about the recent trailer? Because over Christmas, the trailer came out. What did you guys make of that?
Yeah, it looks quite good.
Chris, we're seeing Beep the Meep in this, and you were in an audio that features Beep the Meep.
Yeah.
Any connection?
No, I'm not in it.
Oh, okay. You couldn't tell us if you were, though.
No, I couldn't, but I can guarantee that I'm not in it. Because I would probably say something that would be like, well, you'll have to wait and see, or
That's
act
true.
like David Tennant, and I wouldn't even be able to lie. I'd
The
say
thing
no.
that's made me laugh with the Meep is you got all these people that like, oh, it's like, no, you really don't know who that character is, do you, darling? No.
Oh, wait. I heard that Miriam Margolyes is meant to be
It's supposed to
voicing
be
it,
voicing her, yeah.
Yeah, I heard that.
That's the
which
rumour.
I think is fantastic because in the audio I did, it was Bethan Dixon Bate. She's a brilliant voice artist, voice actor in general. But the voice that she put on for that was just incredibly chilling. Even Tom Baker was sort of like, fucking hell. You know, sort of, he was just in awe. That's quite cool to see that be brought to life in adaptation on the big screen. No, I'm not invited back. I don't know. They've definitely gone up market if they've got Miriam Margolyes to be in it.
She called me a cunt once.
I think she calls everyone it, I imagine.
Yeah, in fairness, I feel like that's just like whenever you meet her, to be fair, anyone.
Yeah.
I think she just lets it slip out, doesn't she? She just has no filter.
Yeah.
But no,
but not in a no filter kind of drunk aunt at a Christmas do. more of a
continual.
more of that she doesn't care much for etiquette, I'd say.
Yeah.
That teaser just asked more questions, which is the whole point of a teaser, to be fair. But
Yeah, but it didn't.
yeah, it didn't spoil, didn't tell us anything we didn't already know, really.
Yeah, to be honest, that's not necessarily a bad thing, like you say.
Exactly.
But it's Liz, my wife Liz, is sort of like this. Whenever she sees a trailer saying this, well, it didn't really show anything, did it? I said, well, no, not meant to get the whole plot in it.
The whole part of the story done.
Imagine, like the old trailers used to do that, like really, really old trailers just had the voice of like, in a world. Well, not even that. I'm talking even earlier than that. Like the old like black and white films would be something along the lines of, I don't know, if they were describing 5 men are arrested. They blame Kaiser Soze. It was the cripple all along. You know, it just outlines the whole film from beginning to end. You don't want to miss it.
That's true.
And like, well, you just told me the whole story. I don't want to
That's true,
see
actually.
it
You
now.
watch the trailer for Dalek Invasion of Earth as in the movie version, and it is literally like, Doctor Who, land on the planet. It literally tells you the whole thing. Yeah, it's true.
They just spoil everything. They go from the beginning and they'll give you the cliffhanger at the
Why
end.
did I see this in the cinema?
Yeah, and somehow that got people to go in.
No.
And then
What's
they do.
the story? You know it.
Yeah. But it's enough. To be honest, I thought it was a bit of a surprise to put a trailer out at Christmas. Ages to, we're talking about 11 months until it actually comes on.
I felt like he'd had it done and he was like, should we put it out?
Yeah.
Should we put it
probably.
out?
Oh, he's going to plug it all year long.
And we're going to get so many little, like, exclusive clips.
David Tennant coming back is stunt casting.
Yeah.
That's what we.
Oh, absolutely.
It's definitely stunt casting. But it's using that nostalgic side of the 60th to allow that to happen. And I think he'll have, and it's not just for the sake of it as well. He's using it he'll write a good reason why, and why it's happened. But also, it does do what I think we can all collectively agree, the show is in a decline. It needs that boost again. And what I noticed a lot was a lot of people saying, I've got to watch this now. More people are like just keen to give it a watch again. And I reckon it'll give the boost it needs to hopefully continue that momentum.
Amongst fans, people feel that the 10th Doctor's a bit overused, over-relied on. Because if you listen to Big Finish or read the books or the comics or play the games,
he is literally everywhere.
He's on all that. But if you're a casual fan like my parents or my sister, all you know is David Tennant left in 2010. He came back for a special in 2013. You've not seen him since 2013. So
10 years' time, yeah.
Yeah, and all the normies that I know that are just like, oh, Doctor Who's on, I'll watch it. They're engaging with the show a bit more in conversation now than I've heard for well over a decade. And I know people like to point the finger at Chibnall and Whittaker and say it's all downhill from then. But this damage kind of happened in the Moffat-Capaldi era.
Yeah.
But I do feel like, like the casual viewers, like whenever you think of Doctor Who, a lot of people just think like Tom Baker, curly hair, long scarf. And I kind of feel like David Tennant is our equivalent. When the modern era people think of Doctor Who, they think of David Tennant.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, yeah, he is the modern day
He is the
Tom
modern
Baker.
day Tom Baker, 100%.
That trailer was enough, I think, to pick our interest. We're still craving more. We want to know more. We want to see more.
But don't tell us too much.
Exactly.
Yeah. Somebody pointed out that Neil Patrick Harris, the waistcoat that he's wearing, is very similar to David Tennant's new costume. So I'm wondering if that plays any part in it.
I kind of feel like now fans are doing that thing where they're searching too deep.
Yeah, maybe. All right, guys, I'd say that's about it for this episode. Abi, thanks for joining us once again. Why don't you tell people where they can find you online, if you want to?
Yeah, well, to hunt me down. It's all right. So my YouTube is TT Productions 23. So there's lots of Paternoster and Doctor Who and other various audio dramas. And on Twitter, I am Abi Louise 230.
Excellent. I'll link all that in the show notes. Chris, you're no longer on Twitter. You're still on Instagram and sometimes TikTok.
Yeah, I do the odd TikTok.
So I'll link to those.
Yeah, I did that one of Merry Christmas.
That was a good one.
I love it because it takes off quite virally on TikTok quite quick.
Yeah.
And so the more people see it, the odds of you getting a negative comment or review even come up. I'm okay with criticism because I'm like, it always helps build your performance. But there are some that I'll just sort of read and go, what the?
Because that's where I first saw you, Chris, actually, is on TikTok.
Is it really?
Yeah, because I messaged you and I was like, do you do this doctor? And then I never bloody used you as a doctor ever. Because I use the TikTok a lot. My TikTok's the same handle as my Twitter. But because I cosplay Doctor Who companions, both classic and Big Finish and modern. I've done like Molly O'Sullivan, Charlotte Pollard and Flip Jackson. And like, so I'm on there as well. I don't post very often now because life got in the way.
Yeah, as it so often does.
Yeah.
All right. And we'll be back next week with some more nonsense.